I fear that I am deceiving myself in studying only my father's achievements in war. As king, I must be both a warrior and a statesman, just as he was. Drawing inspiration from the legendary stories of King Arthur, Edward grew from a deceitful and duplicitous youth into a pious and chivalrous ruler respected throughout Christendom. My father implemented economic, administrative, and legal reforms that strengthened and stabilized his kingdom. His borrowing of Byzantine concepts led him to be known as the English Justinian. Yet to Edward, this was just another part of ruling effectively, and everything that he did furthered his fierce desire to rule over all of Britain. When Alexander III of Scotland died without a male heir, that ambition suddenly seemed within reach. My father first strove to marry Alexander's young granddaughter, Margaret, to me, the heir apparent to England. When she died, unexpectedly, just a year later, Edward instead installed John Balliol as king in Scotland. The proud Scots would not suffer themselves to be ruled by an English puppet, whose master sought to conscript them into war with France. Instead, they allied themselves with the French and rose in open rebellion. Edward's fury was unbridled. If Balliol could not hold his subjects in line, my father would seize Scotland by force. Father was unspeakably cruel to the Scots. In retribution for an attack on Carlisle, he seized and sacked the wealthy town of Berwick, slaughtering some 20,000 inhabitants. Balliol, the puppet that Edward had installed as king in Scotland, proved himself a traitor. He marched the Scottish army south against the English, but it was viciously drubbed at the Battle of Dunbar. Begging for mercy, Balliol capitulated to Edward, who scornfully stripped him of his coat of arms. This disgrace earned him the moniker Tomb Tabard, empty coat. As a final humiliation, Edward seized the coronation stone from the monastery in Scone and placed it in a chair in Westminster Abbey. That hallowed stone of Scone, a symbol of Scottish royalty, shall now sanctify the destiny of an undying line of English kings. The Scots did not take their humbling well. A year after Balliol's defeat, they rallied around the fiery knight, William Wallace, and poured out of the Highlands like rabid wolves. Wallace was said to be a 7-foot-tall giant, who lopped off the heads of horses and men with a 5.5-foot sword. A barbaric match for my own ferocious father. After a string of unexpected victories, Wallace's rebels were scattered at the Battle of Falkirk and forced into hiding. Like a vengeful spectre, he continued to harry English troops and convoys from the shadows. Undaunted, Edward and his commander, Aymer de Valence, approached Stirling Castle. Accompanying them was Robert the Bruce, a Scottish lord sworn to Edward, but known to covet the Scottish crown. Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer, as the ancient adage goes. Taking after his famed predecessor, Richard the Lionheart, he ordered the construction of a massive set of trebuchets near the walls of Stirling. His warning to the defenders was simple and dreadful. Surrender, or face bombardment more ferocious than a rain of hellfire and brimstone. William Wallace's body was butchered, and his remains were scattered across Scotland as a grim warning to any who might fancy themselves a heroic rebel. Yet the effect was the opposite of what my father hoped for. The dying embers of rebellion were kindled into a raging flame as the treacherous Robert the Bruce renounced his vassalage and raised his banners. With his last war still raging, my father, the mighty King of England and Hammer of the Scots, passed away. England is now mine to rule. His vision mine to fulfill. Or to squander. Robert the Bruce remains a threat, and unrest brews throughout England. Even my own barons openly show their contempt, and demand that my powers be diminished. I have studied all that my father did, and still the task at hand terrifies me. He faced every adversity and grew to be a great king. Yet I already feel my soul buckling under the weight of the crown. I am king now. But what king shall I be? Should I be deceptive, as my father was in his youth? Should I be the pious and chivalrous administrator? Or brutal to no end, the new hammer of the Scots? However can a man become so great as to fulfill all of these roles? I fear that there is no answer. Even so, when I stand by my father's tomb, the fear and the shame sometimes sweep aside. Deep within me, I know that whatever else I must try, I must fight for my crown, my kingdom, and for my father's legacy. I will not fail you, Father.